What's up, workforce? Brian here for Work to Game. I hope you're having a good day. I know I am, so let's talk.
Ready? Fight!
So after putting together my Healing 101 guide and reading some of your comments, I wanted to address an argument that's been made in the world of Final Fantasy XIV for some time, and that is, should healers be required to do damage? So now there are at least two sides to every argument, and I hope to be able to present both those sides to you guys today. And then from there, I want to be able to give you my personal opinion on the topic. Plus, I really actually hope you share yours in the comments below. Now, I do want to ask, please be respectful of everybody and their opinions, even if they differ from yours. At the end of the day, we're all fans of the game, and so I just want to make sure that you can share your opinion. Every opinion is welcome, but just be respectful either with refuting it or presenting it. So the first things first, let's look at the argument that healers should be doing damage. So a couple of key points. Cleric stance. Enough said, right? You learn cleric stance at an early part of the game, and even those early quests teach you to be able to jump in and out of cleric stance effectively. Cleric stance turns you into a damage machine. Sure, you might not be the best DPS out there, but I've even seen some healers top the boards very easily. So if you're not number one, you're going to be able to do some damage, especially around level 60. So learning that ability early on is going to help out dramatically. Okay, so also each healer has damaging abilities, AoE abilities, dots, all of that. So they have the skills to be able to do some damage. So especially when playing solo, you're going to need to put out some damage. You just can't heal your way through every situation. So it's obviously there for a reason, and you should utilize it. With the skills at level 60, healers and cleric stance have the ability to actually output a lot of damage. And I mean a lot of damage. You've got a lot of ways that you can actually help the party out by putting damage. So doing DPS as they make runs much faster. And it's going to actually mean that you have to heal less because monsters and bosses are going to die much faster, thus the need to keep everybody healed. This is going to save you all kinds of time in the long run. So if you want to be fast, efficient, and effective, adding in that extra DPS is just going to make everything go a lot smoother. It can be awfully boring just standing around when nobody needs healing, so why not utilize that time to toss out a few dots and maybe a couple of spells? So I guess an argument could be made that since you're slowing the party down, you're really hurting everybody. We're wasting time when time does not need to be wasted with a couple of extra spells and dots from a healer. Okay, so that's kind of the arguments for why healers should do DPS. So let's look at a couple arguments why healers shouldn't be required to do damage. So the first real big piece as to why healers should not be required to do DPS is because from the game's design, content is not balanced with healers' DPS being taken into account. Yoshi P himself has stated this in a Game Watch interview back from May 2015. So he says, regarding the content, especially the raid content, that healer DPS is not taken into account when they are balancing the content out. So they take into account the eye levels, the DPS, the 4 DPS, the 2 tanks, and all of that, but they don't take into account the healer DPS when balancing that content. So also the argument made is that a healer is for healing. It says who they are in the title of their role. They're there to heal and not do damage. Regarding role players, RPers essentially, they can make the argument that their character is not somebody who is there to do damage, and that it essentially breaks their idea or their understanding of white magic in the world of Final Fantasy. So also, damage is not the primary job of a healer. Healing is, right? So that if they were to do some damage, it should be in only critical situations. It shouldn't be required all the time. This gives them the ability to focus in on their primary role, which is keeping the party alive. Regarding cleric stance, it's only a PvE ability and can't even be used in PvP content. Depending on the type of content you want to play, could mean one of two things. So if you're a hardcore PvPer, for a healing perspective, you actually lose that tool set, thus completing the idea that a healer is just for healing. And lastly, the risk is too great. You could be caught off guard with the tank buster or some other unknown mechanic, especially as you're learning the fight. The priority should always be on healing and keeping your party buffed up with stone skin and other spells of that nature. So again, the primary role and the priority is to be a healer and to keep that party alive. So if I'm missing any particular arguments, please let me know in the comments below. But I do feel that a player needs to decide for themselves what style of play fits them best. Here is my opinion. So it's absolutely true. The game's content is not balanced with healing damage in mind. That being said, it just makes it all the much more easier when a healer is doing damage because it's not taking into account that they will be doing that damage. But more importantly, if you actually run the content at the minimum eye level recommended for that content, you'll actually find that it's a lot harder for healers to do damage anyway because they're going to be needing to heal much more. As the game scales and as your gear level increases with every update, and then as you get and acquire new gear, and as your party is fully geared out, you'll find that it's kind of like as healing would go up with the lower eye level, once your eye level starts increasing, you're going to see that your need to heal is decreasing proportionally. I find that typically when running content for the first time around the eye level that it was designed for, as a healer, I'm tossing a lot more heals, and there's very little opportunity to switch because any kind of damage or any kind of ad phase could potentially wipe the party. Now that being said, you come back a month or two later and everybody's well out-geared that content, and then my need to heal is dramatically reduced. And so maybe I toss out a regen, maybe I toss out a couple of shields or something of that nature, but for the most part then I can switch and pretty much stay in cleric stance the rest of the majority of the time. So it is this interesting scale. So with the increase of everybody's HP pool and their ability to do more damage, I find that it is absolutely necessary. I find that healers should be tossing out damage because they're going to find that as people are geared up, they're going to have a lot more downtime, and that seems to be the pattern that we've seen over the last couple years with Final Fantasy XIV. So especially if you're somebody who wants to do like endgame content and the really hardcore content in this game, yes, you're going to need to be able to balance your stances and put out damage. You're going to help take pressure off the DPS. You're going to help the fight progress faster. Now, some fights you might not want to push too fast, so that's going to require more knowledge of the fight rather than a straight hard, no, I don't DPS because I'm a healer, or yes, every healer should only be a DPSer and then back up heal. I've seen that argument before where I'm not here to heal, I'm here to do damage, and if I have to heal you, you're doing it wrong. Again, this brings me right back to that Dorkly clip.
Damn it, man, you're a white mage. White mages are supposed to heal and protect the party.
Yeah, right. White mages are badass as shit, bro. Watch this.
Critical hit!
Now, one side that I do take into account, though, because I do believe healers should be putting out damage if at all possible, is that when it comes to the roulette, when you're running a roulette, no matter what you are, you're taking a gamble. You might run in and play with one of those RPers who, as a part of their character and them playing that role, don't subscribe to the concept that they should have to do damage. And I don't think it's our job to force them or be angry at them for that. We queued up for a roulette. That's a gamble. We've got the party finder. We've got lots of ways that we can party with people who have the same goals. So that into account means that if you do run into somebody who does not subscribe to your philosophy, let's not be a complete jerk to them for that. We can explain to them the benefits of it, but let's try to do so respectively. That also being said, on the flip side, if you're somebody who's an RPer and your character as a healer is vehemently opposed to doing damage, maybe also use the party finder to group up with other people who might have that same RP style goal, thus eliminating the potential for you getting shade thrown on you or feeling like you can't enjoy the game the way that you want to enjoy the game. Either way, I think we just need to be nicer to each other. And this brings me to my final thought. Throughout the entire series of Final Fantasy, healers do damage. To make an argument to say that because Final Fantasy, a healer in Final Fantasy is just a heal, that doesn't fit into any of the past Final Fantasy games, the single player or even Final Fantasy XI. Sure, in Final Fantasy XI you were primarily focused on healing, but even still couldn't toss out a few spells to help out the party. But namely, just focusing on the single player titles, white mages always had varying abilities that allowed them to do damage. Sure, their primary is to heal and keep the party up. They can still do damage, and they've got that in their tool set. So think of it more as that secondary calling. If everybody is fine, let's go ahead and toss out some damage. Again, it's going to save you time, it's going to save your party time, it's going to make everybody's day better. And what's interesting about that is that even if you're not comfortable with stance dancing, like let's say you're starting out and you're concerned by putting on the stance and having a difficult time healing and being able to switch on and off, just still toss out those dots. Get used to having that rotation in which that, you know, hey, everybody's healed up. Let me put out like Arrow, let me put out Miasma, let me put out Bio, let me put out these abilities that are going to help put damage. They're not going to be the most effective without Cleric Stance, but at least you're getting into that habit, and going from 0 DPS to like 100 DPS, that's going to be a benefit. That's going to help you move along and help the party move along quicker than if you were doing nothing. And also, you don't really also have to have everybody fully topped off at all points in the game. So if somebody's, you know, taking a hit for 100 and they've got, you know, 10,000 HP, you know, we don't need to, you know, you don't need to panic and heal that up right away. There aren't that many mechanics, especially outside of the raid scene, that are really going to help, that are going to wipe if you don't keep somebody topped off. So those are my thoughts. If I missed an argument for or against, you know, sound off in the comments below. Let me know. I want to have that conversation. I want to make sure that I can understand both sides of the debate. So if you're somebody who is vehemently against doing damage, let me know. If you're somebody who's vehemently against healing, let me know as well. Let's just have that conversation. And again, remember, let's be respectful of everybody. We are all fans at the end of the day, and we all can have our own opinions, and that's okay. So for Work to Game, my name's Brian, and I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic week. Take care. Hey, it's me. Thanks so much for watching this video. You should click here to subscribe and here to maybe check out some more of our videos. So again, thanks for watching. We hope you like this video. We hope you subscribe and join our community. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and we'll see you next time.